is Willie Minnix. I'm the author of the Mandolin Dead Man's Tuning series of books, and this month is March of 2017, and I'm going to be going through a couple of the tunes that are covered in my mandolin book, Dead Man's Tuning, English, Scottish, and Irish Ballads, and we're going to talk about a couple Irish ballads and some tips on how to play them. And if you have this book, on page 107, 108, it kind of is the beginning of the Irish section of this book, and the first song is a song called Arthur McBride, and I have the melody, the tab for the melody in the book, so that's pretty self-explanatory and easy to play. But for those of you who have bought the book, I wanted to give you some tips on things that you could do if you were going to play it and sing it, like or things that you could add while you're playing it. So Arthur McBride, there are two versions of Arthur McBride. Actually, there are three versions of Arthur McBride that I highly recommend. The first time I ever heard this song was Bob Dylan. I think it was on the Good As I've Been to You album. Then I found out that he kind of based his version on Paul Brady's version, and Paul Brady was in a band called Planxty, and they had a version that's slightly different than the version that I cover in this book. But Arthur McBride, I'll just play a verse of it for you, and then you can kind of see some of the things that I'm doing. And before I get started, for those of you who are new to my videos, I'm an ADAD, A-D-A-D. It's a little bit different. It's an Irish tuning, which works great with these Irish songs. So it gives you some drones, and you'll see the droning as I'm playing. Oh, me and me, cousin one of McBride, as we were out walking down by the seaside. Now my wife followed, and what did betide for being on Christmas morning, and for recreation we went on a tramp. Well, we met Sergeant Pepper and the Corporal, the wee drummer singing the camp for the Davy and Pleasant and Charming. Alright, that's just a couple verses of the song, and you'll notice that as I'm playing it, I'm not playing it like I would be if I were just playing the melody. You know, little melodic phrases are great to throw in there for filler, but if you're going to be backing a singer, you don't want to just be playing along to the melody. I will say this as a caveat, though. From what I understand about Irish jams, when you're playing traditional Irish tunes, like in an Irish jam session, everybody plays the melody pretty much at the same time. But we're talking not about playing a tune or a song like this in a jam setting. We're talking about performing it as if it was a song. And so to perform it like a song, you want to add some depth to the mandolin. So I start out boldly strumming the mandolin, kind of like you would if it was a guitar. And that droning pattern establishes what you're going to do in the background. And so learning how to strum in a good rhythm is totally essential to be able to play a lot of music. And this style of mandolin, because it drones well, lends itself to strumming. Whereas a lot of times in mandolin playing, especially from a bluegrass background, you're really going to be more into chopping, and that's a very rhythmic thing that's important too. And I do have a video, I think it's going to be out in April, on chopping, so you might check that out too. But basically for now, strumming in this tuning, in ADAD tuning, GD tuning, AE tuning, or even Dead Man's tuning, DDAD, those are all acceptable alternate tunings for the mandolin that open up the possibility to strum on these drones and really get the whole mandolin sounding well. And you may notice that the mandolin that I'm using today is a little bit more resonant. It's because the builder, Larry Hopkins, God rest his soul, built a sound well where there's a bubble right in the middle, and it ends up making the mandolin a little bit more resonant. But anyway, back to Arthur McBride. So I start by strumming it. Oh, me and me, cousin, one Arthur McBride. And I'm using a strum pattern, boom ba da da, boom ba da da, boom ba da, boom ba da, that you made here on a bowrin or on some other Irish rhythmic instruments, because I want to match that to where it feels more lilting and it kind of has that Irish feel to it. And I'm not a Irish percussionist, so I'm not really sure on all of the exact techniques that are used, but if you watch some videos or if you watch some Irish percussionists, pay particular attention to the types of rhythms that they use and the little accents that they use. If they do a double stroke, or if they do maybe even a triplet at some point, or a down-up thing, you can mimic all of that with the way that you strum in your playing. So keep that in mind when you're playing. Now, to progress on, once I've established kind of the rhythm of the song that I'm going to play, then I start to bring in some of the other techniques that I like to use. And one of the techniques that I like to use when I'm strumming is I like to come, I'm on this last string, you know, it's A, D, A, D. So the last string is a D string. So the next note is, of course, D sharp, E, F, and F sharp. So between the E and the F sharp, I like to spell out little melodic passages to change my chord. So here's the difference between just strumming the chord and singing, and then strumming the chord and adding in just a little bit of variation on the E and the F sharp right there. So I'll zoom up a little bit so you can see this. Okay, now I'm going to do it with the variation. Already you can tell that it's more interesting to listen to because you've got that. And sometimes I come down to the A string and play that B, the B note right here, which is the second fret of the the A string. And it's not really in any particular order. I'm not thinking about it because sometimes I'll change and go from the E to the F sharp, or sometimes I'll go from the F sharp to the E. But and what you're doing by adding in those notes is you're changing the chord. Okay, so a D chord is essentially the notes D, F sharp, and A. In A-dad tuning, we're kind of in what's called a non-chord or a modal D, where we could be either in D minor or we could be in D major, depending on if we use the F sharp or the F. You hear how that changes? And we want to establish that we're in D major, so we can add that F sharp, and then what we get is A, D, A, F sharp, and so the D, F sharp, and the A spell out that D chord. Now when you add an E note to a D chord, what you get is a D2 chord, okay? So it's a D with the second note of the scale added into it. Now if I want to get a music theory page going at some point, and hopefully I can explain this in greater detail, but for now you can know that you can modify your chords by adding other notes of the scale in it. So in the key of D you have D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. And the chord already has the first note, which is a D, the third note, which is an F sharp, and the fifth note, which is an A, but you can add in the second note, which is an E. You can add in the fourth note, which is a G. You can make a minor variant of your chord by adding the sixth note, which in this case is a B, or you can make a seventh chord or a major seventh chord by adding either the C or the C sharp to the chord. So by knowing where those notes are on the frets, and I will post up a quick picture here on the side that you can look at that will let you see what some of those are, and I will also include it in the ebook for the month of March on kind of going over some of the topics that we're talking about here, and that way you can kind of see a pattern of where all these notes lie, and then you can start to spell out your own chords. But that's what I do for Arthur McBride. And then when I get to the D chord, you're not on it for, or I mean the G chord, you're not on it for very long. So I just strum. Same way when I get to the A chord. Now one thing I do sometimes do is I lift up my index finger when I'm playing that G chord. Hopefully you can see the G chord right there, and I have it spelled out in other videos too. It's a little rhythmic thing, and sometimes when I go to the A, I do that as well. So that's Arthur McBride. I hope you have a great day, and I will catch you in the next video. And if you like these videos, please do me a favor. I really would appreciate it if you would subscribe to my list. You could also subscribe to my mailing list by going to willieminnix.com and signing up for the newsletter. I send out the ebook links through the newsletter, so if you want that, be sure to do that. And then also, if you like these videos and you have other friends that are musicians or mandolin players, I have other instruments that I teach on my channel too, so please go ahead and share these with your friends and subscribe to the channel. So God bless you, you have a great day, and we'll catch you in the next video. Blessed